Hello, how are you doing?
Good, how are you doing?
All right, we're lucky to have Osama Bedier here from PayPal, who's the Vice President of Platform, Mobile, and New Ventures. We're going to be talking a little bit about mobile innovation and micropayments at PayPal. But before we get into that, I wasn't going to mention this, but your head of developer platform insisted. I wonder if we could talk about WikiLeaks. So I know that Julian Assange has had his account frozen, so he now knows how the rest of us feel. I wondered whether you felt as though PayPal had done the right thing here.
What's WikiLeaks? No. So actually, let me start by sharing a little bit about how this works at PayPal. We have a acceptable use policy group. And their job is to make sure that our customers are protected, given that we move a lot of money for our customers. Protecting our customers comes first. Making sure that we comply with regulations around the world. Money movement regulations around the world are very complex, especially trying to balance all of them together in 190 countries. So making sure that we operate legally and continue to do so is very important. And then ensuring that we protect our brand. So that's their job. And they set policies and regularly enforce those policies on a daily basis. What happened here is on November 27th, the State Department, the US government, basically wrote a letter saying that the WikiLeaks activity were deemed illegal in the United States. And as a result, our policy group had to make the decision of suspending the account. And so they took that decision. As a result, we informed the account holder on file that was the case and suspended the account. It's honestly just pretty straightforward from our perspective, and there's not much more to it than that.
Cool. I mean, you're not the only financial services company to have done the same thing. MasterCard also. One last question, though. MasterCard.com went down today. Are you worried about retaliation from the blogosphere and from hackers?
Am I worried about issues? You know, we're always worried about hackers. That's part of our job. Actually, one of the signs that you're a successful payment method is hackers start to target you and try to take money out of your customers' accounts. And so this is something that we're all too familiar with. We deal with on a regular basis, and this case isn't any exception to that.
Sure. All right, well, let's get on to the good stuff now.
Okay, good.
So you made some interesting announcements at PayPal X end of last year.
We did.
And would you like to talk through what's happened since then?
Yeah.
What you're doing maybe in mobile? I'll give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about what has happened since the Big X conference.
Great. So, last year, around November of 2009, we made the decision of opening up the assets that we had built up over the last 10 years at PayPal to the external developer community. It's a sign of the times. These days, you have to be an open platform to have longevity into the next decade. And this wasn't new in terms of the internet, but it was new to payments. And so we didn't know what to expect. But the driver behind it was there was a lot of opportunity for us to create value and innovate in the payment space, and we could only address so much of it ourselves. So we thought that opening this up to our developer community, to a large number of partners that would help address all of the opportunity that was coming our way and share in the economics would be a great idea. And so we focused on a few key areas, opened up our platform last year, and hoped for the best. Since then, we've been really amazed at the traction here. I think at the same time, the demand on changes in the payment space have never been greater. Yep. And so it was, in a way, actually really good timing. We announced at our conference in November of this year, in October of this year, about a month ago, that we've already we're on track to move $1 billion this year on that platform. So we see that as a huge success. We have over 1,000 applications that external partners have built on top of that platform, including a lot of our own mobile efforts, which brings us to the mobile topic here. We see that the changes over the next few years in payments will be unparalleled in history. And we think together with partners and developers, the opportunities that will bring to the whole ecosystem is also great. So we're looking forward to it. Lots of great successes, lots of ideas we would have never addressed. Just to put that into context, in a good year, we'll deliver about 100 new products or features ourselves. So 1,000 additional ideas or areas to cover with our partners is just great success.
Well, let me ask you about the timeline of mobile, because we've been hearing for a long time that mobile is the next big thing in all sorts of different verticals. And talking about payments, this is not news. People have been saying this for a long time. So truthfully, how far are we away from the rollout of genuinely useful, everyday mobile payment apps?
You know, something happened in the last year and a half, that created the type of trend that makes you feel in your gut. And we saw it in a few other examples in internet history, but something's happened that makes you feel that this is now happening. We've been talking about it forever. In fact, PayPal's been in the mobile payments space since 2005, and we've been waiting for it to happen. In 2008, we saw the first blip. We saw $24 million. Despite 3 years of effort, 2008, we saw $24 million. Right? While it's not a large amount, it was the first significant amount that we could point to and say something here is happening. Since then, in 2008, the $25 million, this year we're on track to do over $700 million. That's 30x growth in less than 2 years. So when you look at that trend and the trend accelerating, you say it's actually happening. This is no longer will it happen. This is how quickly will it happen. The other thing, you know, you add all the other trends that you see about how quickly mobile is growing, it puts the early days of the web to shame. We know that this thing is growing much faster than 95, 96, when the web was just coming of age. And we see all of our merchants, we have almost 9 million merchants now, all of our merchants are taking a very different approach than they did with the web, especially the largest guys, where they were like, this is a fad, it'll pass. They're all jumping on it. So this is fundamentally different. We know that it's happening. It's just how quickly will it happen. I think over the next 3 years, we'll be very surprised how quickly this becomes mainstream.
Okay. What are some of the other things that you're looking at moving into? Because PayPal obviously has big ambitions in terms of how people move money around the world.
Yeah.
You did a partnership recently with Discovery, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about why and what you have in mind?
Sure. Look, I alluded to this earlier, but I can't underscore the significance of the next 2 years in payments history. Over the last few thousand years, the way we pay for things has only changed really 4 times, right? From barter to coin, coin to paper, paper to plastic. And we're going through the next evolution here over the next few years. I'd say even next 24 months. And at each point, it's not really just payments that has changed, it's commerce in general has changed. At each point, commerce has significantly changed. Just think about what plastic did for us. You know, not just buying with money you didn't have, but a lot of the purchases online were possible because plastic drove the electronification of payments. And the next phase is digital. It's purely digital because the concept of a physical wallet can't extend to where we're going. Payments can be a bottleneck for where commerce wants to go, and digital goods is the best example of that. A physical card doesn't work for digital goods. You actually have to get the number and transfer it. It's an extension. For us, it's the wallet in the cloud. The wallet has to live in the cloud to allow you to go back and forth between an online and offline experience. We think that commerce over the next 5 years will change considerably because of all of the infrastructure that was built for the web and all of the opportunity to move that experience in the store even further as you bring the best of the web to the real world. And a few examples of that, think about when you're in the store and you want to buy an item and you find that on the shelf it's gone, you got to go to a different store. But if you marry the two experiences, you should be able to scan the barcode and have it shipped to your house. Or if you find the item and the color is wrong, or the queue is too long, you should be able to have those options. Or as opposed to going home and checking the reviews on a television because it's a big ticket item, or checking the opinions, checking the details, you get it right there in store. We're seeing a lot of this happening as we speak, and over the next few years, payments closes the loop.
I think you might be being a little bit optimistic about the speed with which people are going to take this stuff up, because money's a really sensitive subject for people, isn't it? I mean, people get very angry and upset when money's involved. And I made a slightly unkind joke at the beginning of this about having a PayPal account frozen, which is something people do experience from time to time. The problem is people quite like the physical element of transactions. Yeah. And do you think that people are going to leap on this, start welcoming and embracing mobile payments, something that happens digitally on a screen, for almost all of their daily transactions? Or do you think there's going to be a bit of a lag as people are reluctant to?
Well, I think if you asked me that question 2 years ago, I would have given you the answer you just gave. We're too optimistic. This stuff. I haven't seen the key elements yet that suggest this is going to happen. But all I have to point to is examples like iTunes, where the music industry has literally changed over the last decade. Literally, right? Music, the largest music retailer now, was a computer manufacturer 5 years ago, right? So you look at those examples, and then you look at the trends. These are accelerating, right? It's not just, it's not the same trajectory, it's accelerating. And the number of internet-connected devices that we're seeing on a regular basis come online, and the capabilities that they have, all of these are variables that make me believe that these things are happening. I'll give you a couple of other data points. Without divulging too much information that we can't talk about publicly. We know that from our, by the way, PayPal is one of the largest payments brands out there. In the US, we actually get to see, between our gateway business and our core business, over 50% of the transactions that happen online. So we have a pretty good view into what are the trends that are occurring. We know, for example, that almost half of all purchases in the real world now are somehow influenced by the web. And I'm talking about not e-commerce, normal commerce in the store.
This is people researching.
People are researching or checking prices. We recently purchased Red Laser. We acquired Red Laser, the application on the iPhone that allows you to check prices. And what we saw last holiday season, a third of all holiday shoppers were comparing prices through that app. And the fact that mobile allows you to bridge the online and offline experience, you're going to see a lot more of that happening. We have conversations on a regular basis now. I'm flying out to a lot of places around the country in the US because retailers are pushing us to change the commerce experience in the store. Right? This is stuff that didn't used to happen. I remember 3 or 4 years ago when we were talking about moving off eBay, we had to kind of beg merchants to adopt PayPal. Today, I'm glad to say we're not in that phase anymore, and merchants online are adopting us regularly. But what I didn't expect is offline merchants to come and ask us to help them in the offline experience and the blurring of the lines and the multi-channel world we're going into, where the most important thing will be to know the customer across all of these channels. It will be very difficult to compete 3 years from now as a retailer in the real world if you don't know that your customer, who your customer is, whether they're shopping on your website, your mobile phone app, or your real world experience. You've got to be able to connect those experiences and offer them personalized and specialized offers and experiences.
Sure. It's quite an ambitious project. It's quite a difficult thing to achieve.
Yep.
And I think that one of the areas in which you don't get enough credit is the hoops you have to jump through with regulation, because you operate right the way across the world and presumably have a lot of extremely difficult laws to comply with, which have impacts on other markets. Can you talk us through some of the challenges, or perhaps the two big problems with mobile payments that you can foresee in terms of government regulation?
Yeah, well, I'd say, just to touch on that point, regulatory environment, it actually turns out to be a challenge in some ways, but for us, an advantage in others. We've got 10 years of figuring out the regulatory environment around the world and making it work homogeneously around the world. We're kind of the universal adapter. Whenever I travel from the US to the UK or Europe, I have to find an adapter, right? We're kind of like the universal adapter, and as the world gets smaller, and any person can buy from any other person around the world, you need that universal adapter. We've got 10 years of experience doing that, so it's actually a competitive advantage in some ways. For us, it's how much more quickly can we expand around the world, right? We've got 190 countries in different levels of capability. We want to accelerate that because we see the demand for that type of thing accelerating. And then you talked a little bit about WikiLeaks earlier. It's how do you make sure that you can reconcile the differences in these regulatory environments as we chart a new route? Right? In a lot of these cases, a digital transaction, well, in many countries, the rules for that haven't even been written yet. The good news is we've got such a head start that a lot of countries are asking us to help draft these rules. A lot of countries are working with us as opposed to in the early days saying, what the heck are you, and why should I let you exist? There's a realization now that this is where the world is going, that we bring economic value to the countries where we operate, and now we're actually seeing a pull effect where some countries are asking us for help. And then finally, the emerging world, the other, let's call it 3 or 4 billion people in the world that are coming online in a way that we never expected, right? That are purely just mobile. How do you address them quickly enough, given that there's no financial infrastructure or network in some cases to work off of, and we have to actually help bring that online from day one.
Fantastic. So the tagline for your Developer X conference was, I think, mobile, social, and local.
Yes.
So the bit we haven't spoken about yet is local.
Yeah.
What plans do you have to integrate sort of geolocated technologies and particularly perhaps with apps? How does that work? Have you got anything exciting?
Yeah, well, this is the interesting part about mobile recently, and it's really the convergence of the three that we were trying to allude to in our conference. The convergence of these three trends have created the biggest opportunities in history. To put it in numbers, online is attempting, and by online I mean e-commerce, purchases online, are attempting to hit the 800-900 billion mark here in the next couple of years. For all of the progress that we've made, it's still less than $1 trillion. Globally, there's another $30 trillion that gets spent, 30 to 50, depending on which estimate you take, that still gets spent. And the key is not that 4 or 5 or 6% that's already moved online, but now how do you impact the other 96% of commerce that happens? And this is where I believe mobile, social, and local come to play. I think that other 93, 94% of commerce that hasn't come online yet, whoa.
Steady.
That other huge number, that's about to change considerably. Oh. And the most important new thing that mobile brought recently, because mobile and internet have been around for a while. The idea of location and other capabilities, but location is probably the most significant thing that we've seen mobile bring. And location gives you local. You should be able to, as opposed to enter all this information about you and then say where you are, the local capability allows you to bring that best of online to the offline world and create a rich experience. Augmented reality is a good example of that, but in shopping, we're about to see it, where you get specialized offers because you're next to the store that you like to shop with the most because your friends are also there, your friends are telling you about an offer. We're seeing a lot of these converge.
So let me ask you this. I mean, you're a product guy, so you're presumably heading up the development of stuff that we haven't seen yet and might not see for some time. So just give me your...
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Last question?
Yeah.
Give me your vision.
Luigi is trying to say people are hungry.
I know. Well,
we'll wrap up here.
Keep going, keep going.
Well,
I just wanted to say hi.
Do you want to come and sit down?
Have a seat, man.
Louis, come and sit down.
Please, Milo.
Give me your vision for the future. Give me an exciting picture of what mobile, social, and local payments through PayPal could look like in 5 or 10 years' time.
Yeah. Well, so I think all of this is actually, in an interesting way, brings commerce back to where it should be and where it was. And the example I point to there is, 100 years ago, when we shopped, we went to a corner store. We knew the store owner. They greeted you by name. They knew exactly what you were looking for because you come in on such a regular basis. They gave you a special deal, or they stocked an item that you were looking for. It felt like a closer relationship than the big box experience now, where you walk anonymously into a place, buy an item, stand in a queue, and pay for it. What this will allow is for you to walk into the store, and if you want, it'll be known to the store that you're there. The technology will allow you to be greeted in a specialized, personalized way. You'll get a special offer on the thing you were looking for online and happen to come in to see if the inventory was there in the store. You'll go to the shelf and potentially, as I mentioned, either not find the right color or not find it there. You don't want to carry it home, you take it, you tell them to ship it to your house. And the shipping will happen in a few hours as opposed to the next day. And if you want to skip the line, you should be able to buy it right there, take it in hand, and walk out the door. And it'll have an NFC chip that the bit turns to sold, so that as you walk through the store, the sensor doesn't go off. It's paid for. A lot of the technology already exists. It's just, will the partners collaborate enough to make that type of experience happen? And the fact that the developer is now in the driver's seat. That's a lot of you folks. The developer's now in the driver's seat and can build the applications to make that happen just by leveraging the technology. I think it's much closer than we think.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you.